Mud volcanoes in San Juan, sinkholes in New Jersey, earthquakes on the Doomsday glacier, human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Welcome back to Inverted World. I am your host, Shane Cashman. There's a lot to go over today. The world is just opening up. The ground is quite literally opening up all over the place. We have mud volcanoes. We'll get into that. We're going to talk about some pyramids. We're going to talk about a town in New Jersey that's been evacuated because of sinkholes. It is getting pretty biblical out in the world. But first, I wanted to shout out a listener to the show and say that we are praying for him. Jace, he mentioned that his father passed away last night, and we are really sorry to hear that. I love that phrase, absent in the body, present with the Lord. And I thought of this from Romans 14:8. For if we live to the Lord. And if we die to the Lord. So then, whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. Jace, we're thinking of you, and we're praying for you. Everyone, please say a prayer for Jace and his family in this time of loss. Mud volcanoes. It's not a phrase that I was expecting to utter this week. But in Colombia, we have this. Animals dead, roads damaged after mud volcano erupts in San Juan. Have you seen this footage? It looks like a nuclear test. It looks like a bomb went off. It doesn't look like your typical volcano. It looks like they dropped a bomb and it exploded. Several animals died and damaged the access road leading to Siete Vueltas district in Colombia on Wednesday, February 25th, after a huge mud volcano erupted in San Juan. Emergency services were already stationed in the area and began dousing the fire that erupted from the volcanic eruption, preventing people from approaching the site. I want to see if I can pull up anything else about it right now. It's still pretty new, but I have seen videos that, like, the roads have cracked open. It looks pretty biblical. Let's see. I'm going to get another one here. Residents of San Juan in Colombia's Antioquia. Sorry for those in Colombia. I am illiterate. Department witnessed an unusual and dramatic eruption on Tuesday afternoon when a mud volcano burst to life, sending flames, smoke, and debris into the sky. The event occurred on February 25th and was visible from several kilometers away due to the ignition of flammable gases released during the eruption. Local authorities confirmed that no human casualties were reported. However, several livestock were killed in the immediate vicinity, and vegetation fires were sparked by the methane-fueled blast. Remember, we were just talking about volcanoes recently because they were worried about the bulge at Yellowstone Park that has become much bigger than usual. But they said we're not too afraid. It should be okay. Everyone should be fine. But this is the word they used throughout the article constantly. They said the bulge. They kept having to say there's a bulge. I'm like, okay, we get it, Yellowstone, you horny scientists. Because then it's like every other sentence is about the eruption. It's like, come on, people. This is Mother Nature we're talking about here. Get your head out of the gutter, scientist. The event occurred on February 25th and was visible from several kilometers away. Local authorities confirmed that no human casualties were reported. However, several livestock were killed in the immediate vicinity. I read this part. And their sustained damage is cracks opened in the ground and debris scattered across the area. So literally, these roads in the area just cracked on open. There's a Daughter's song off of You Won't Get What You Want, where he's singing about the earth is opening up. And it is, I think of that when I see these sinkhole or volcano stories. And if you don't know that song or that album, it is really good. it is in my top 5. When I did that, I did a podcast. I was a guest on the Paranoid Americans podcast, but it wasn't his main channel. It was one we just talked about music, and I went over why I love that album so much. But the earth is opening up, he says in that song. Emergency response teams from DAGRAN, it's a disaster risk management agency, arrived on site shortly after the eruption, because, of course, there's probably someone who has the button that caused the eruption. They knew in advance that this would blow up, so we should be on site, but not too close as to raise any suspicions. But, they do have earthquake machines. So they say. So I say. Russia, Putin has said he also has tsunami bombs that can create tsunami. So if he can say that, I can say that we have a button that can cause volcano eruptions. It's right here next to me. Officials established a security perimeter to prevent residents from approaching unstable ground. Authorities warned that further activity remains possible as underground gas pressure continues to shift. Unlike traditional lava volcanoes, a mud volcano does not erupt molten rock. Instead, it expels a mixture of mud, water, and gases, primarily methane, driven by underground pressure within sedimentary basins. These structures are often associated with tectonic activity or regions containing oil and natural gas deposits. Oh, it's got oil? I think we should invade. When gas builds up beneath layers of soft sediment such as clay or shale, pressure forces the slurry upward. The slurry, it's a great word. In some cases, as seen in San Juan, methane escaping during the eruption can ignite, producing flames and explosions that resemble volcanic fire. Despite the dramatic visuals, the expelled material is typically cooler than magma-based eruptions, but still is like a giant ball of fire. But I'm telling you, it did not look like your typical eruption. It's crazy because there's people filming the eruption happening, and they're pretty far away. Some of these videos look like they are a mile or two away, at least. And where they're standing, the road has cracked open beneath their feet. They're walking on it. Obviously you shouldn't do that because this could give way to the hellmouth. But in the distance, in this video I'm watching, they're probably about a mile away. There's just a giant ball of fire. It looks like a sustained gas explosion at like a factory. Like there's a fire happening. So it's not your typical volcano. It's a mud volcano. Mud volcanoes can range in size from small cones just a few meters high to large formations spinning hundreds of meters. While generally less destructive than your normal volcano, they can pose risk due to toxic gas emissions, ground instability, and secondary fires. Following the eruptions, the risk management teams are assessing ground stability and monitoring gas emissions to determine whether additional eruptions may occur. Road repairs are expected to begin once the area is declared safe. Officials emphasize that residents should rely on verified updates from municipal and department authorities, or from this show right here. Don't go anywhere near that unless you're trying to climb down into the hellmouth and fight demons. Then if that happens, you should hit us up and let's hear about it. I figured let's do a little background on mud volcanoes. So let's look at this article here. It's from usgs.gov. The headline I quite like. Volcano Watch. Here's the dirty truth about mud volcanoes. As residents of Hawaii, this is from 2005. As residents of Hawaii, we are, for the most part, acutely aware of volcanic processes and products. This is especially true for those of us living on the Big Island, where thoughts of volcanic eruptions and lava flows are always lurking in the backs of our minds. This is what history and personal experience do for us. It is unlikely, however, that these same thoughts ever crossed the minds of the people living in the tiny farming community of Piparo on the island of Trinidad in the southern Caribbean Sea. That is, not until February 22nd. Oh, just past this anniversary. Not until February 22nd, 1997, when a volcano erupted in the midst of their village, crushing roofs and burying houses in mud. Fortunately, the rumbling and shaking that preceded the eruption warned villagers who escaped before their houses were destroyed. A similar case occurred outside Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan. I think I almost said that correctly. Almost. In South Central Asia on October 25th, 2001. There, without warning, an eruption blasted flames nearly 1,000 feet into the air and blanketed the surrounding area with tons of mud. Luckily, again, there were no injuries. What is surprising about these events is that neither Trinidad nor Azerbaijan, I said it way better that time, has volcanoes in the traditional sense of the word. That is, volcanoes driven by magmatic processes. Magmatic processes. That's a great phrase. What they do have instead are mud volcanoes, a strange and relatively obscure geologic feature found on nearly every continent worldwide, as well as in near-shore environments. Though poorly understood, mud volcanoes are found where subsurface layers of fluidized sediments like silt and clay have been pressurized by tectonic activity, such as at the boundaries of the Earth's crustal plates or by the accumulation of hydrocarbon gases. So a bunch of science there for you about what I think could just also be reduced to a button. Or every time Britney Spears posts a video of her dancing, I'm beginning to think sinkholes open up around the world or a volcano explodes. Or demon escapes the hellmouth. Maybe that's how they're getting out. Maybe that's why there's this growing number of sinkholes happening. Though poorly understood, and mud volcanoes are found where subsurface layers of fluidized sediments like silt and clay. I've read that most of these mud volcanoes are small, from only a few inches to several feet high, but some as can be like the one in Azerbaijan. Come visit us in Azerbaijan to see our mud volcano, which is 6 miles in diameter and several hundred feet high, here in Azerbaijan. Though mud volcanoes do sometimes erupt with powerful results, they are for the most part harmless. Gases bubble passively from the tiny craters at their summit, and upwelling mud slowly oozes out to form small flows. Unless you're in San Juan, where this thing has cracked open roads in quite a big radius from this mud volcano. Mud volcanoes are also different from the bubbling mud pots found in active geothermal areas such as Yellowstone Park. Shout out Yellowstone Park. The mud that erupts from mud volcanoes is cold, or perhaps only slightly warmer than the ambient ground temperature. When large explosions do occur, they are thought to be caused by the accumulation of hydrocarbon gases such as methane. Spontaneous combustion of these gases can lead to devastating results. Once the pressure is released, however, the mud volcano returns to a passive state, perhaps not becoming explosive again for decades or centuries, if ever. The mud is extruded from mud volcanoes. The mud that is extruded from mud volcanoes can rise from as deep as several miles. That's a long ways for this mud to travel. Because mud volcanoes are also, I had to stop myself from almost making a constipation joke. We're above that. Okay, this is a very serious show, and I'm above making constipation jokes. Because mud volcanoes are also often associated with hydrocarbons, they provide useful information on the geology and petroleum potential of deep sedimentary basins. However, since the dominant gases expelled from mud volcanoes are methane, and mud volcanoes are also considered an important source of greenhouse gases, with at least 1,100 mud volcanoes on land, they are saying here that there could be as much as 100,000 more underwater. Well, it's just a little background there on some mud volcanoes. I just thought that would be fun. Have you heard about the sinkholes in New Jersey? So, in Phillipsburg here, do we have any... Well, is anyone out there listening from San Juan? If so, drop us a line. Are you witnessing the mud hole aftermath? Mud hole. That's a gross phrase. Mud volcano that has possibly been caused by a mud hole. disgusting phrase. How about anyone from Phillipsburg, New Jersey? Because this is pretty wild. There's a cause of massive Phillipsburg sinkholes a mystery, but mayor says town will get to bottom of it. So from when I first heard about this was back on around February 17th, when I saw this image of a giant truck just being devoured by a sinkhole in this town. And then I saw an article about like, we are evacuating this town. Sinkholes happen every now and then. But this town seems to be experiencing a little more than usual. And it's just crazy to think you're going to have to be evacuated because of a sinkhole. The mayor of Phillipsburg says sinkholes that opened up on Summit Avenue, including one that swallowed a dump truck, were the result of infrastructural failures beneath the roadway that require further investigation. Authorities responded to calls about the roadway collapsing at Lewis Street and Summit Avenue on Monday, February 16th, providing an immediate response as sinkholes developed. Remember, we got this thing in Jersey, too. It's in D.C. as well. It's a little different, though. That abandoned sewage tunnel that they're afraid might collapse. These are things people should be, the people who are running infrastructure should be thinking about more often. I'm thinking about a lot of the bridges that have collapsed. There was like a rash of bridge collapsing tragedies over the years. That might have been like 15 years ago now. And there was one by me back when I was still in New York. This is a real word, so I'm going to say it, and this is actually how you say it. But the Popolopan Bridge, which is kind of adjacent to the Bear Mountain Bridge, where Orange County, New York meets whatever part of Jersey that is. Well, I guess that's Rockland right there, Rockland County. And I don't think that's Jersey yet, but it's where Bear Mountain State Park is. If you've read On the Road, the first page takes place in the circle at that bridge. But anyway, after a lot of bridges collapsed around the country, they started work on the Popolopan Bridge. And I swear to you, they worked on reinforcing the Popolopan Bridge for 2 decades, maybe a decade and a half. So there was lane closures. It was always 2 of the 3 lanes, 4 lanes open, whatever it was. It's not a very it's just a normal little bridge. There's nothing fancy about it. The Bear Mountain Bridge, I think, is a lovely bridge. It was at the time it was built, one of the bigger, I think the biggest suspension bridge. I think it was built before the Golden Gate Bridge, but beautiful bridge is the Bear Mountain Bridge, and the Popolopan, not so special, but we're grateful it's there. And it is above what us locals in the area call hellhole. And there's actually, I think it's on the map now, it says hellhole. That's where people used to go diving, jumping off a cliff and into water, which was never good. And if my buddy Pat is listening, there's stories that his father used to say and about jumping into that water beneath the Popolopan Bridge. And as you're hitting the water, realizing as you're looking to your left or your right that you just barely missed giant pieces of train track that had been discarded down there, these spikes, these giant rusted spikes, because the train tracks are just below the bridge. I was not one to jump in the water. I would watch people. I was not jumping into that from that cliff. I heard those stories too often, but kids did it either way. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I'm going to tie this back to sinkholes. You'll see. 2 years ago, in July, my town of Highland Falls, my hometown, experienced an insane flood. It was biblical. I wrote a story about it somewhere online. And what happened was that, this is what they say, it might have been the Rainmaker CEO trying to preemptively strike me before having to debate me. But it rained so hard and so quick that since our little town's at the bottom of Bear Mountain, or Storm King Mountain rather, the rain rushed down so fast and it just washed away everything quickly. And a lot of sinkholes opened in West Point, Highland Falls, and Fort Montgomery, which are these three little towns right there tucked away in the valley across from Garrison, New York. A beautiful little bird has landed by the window. Hello, bird. And there's another one. It was fake, obviously. That was not a real bird. It was painted beautifully, and there are multiple fake birds now landing on the branches outside, and they are listening. They are hearing this podcast before you guys. So there's that. Anyway, the images of these sinkholes opening up in my hometown and the surrounding towns were insane. And a few people actually lost their lives. Terrible stories. There's like boulders going through houses, people trying to run out of their house as fast as possible, drownings. I was with my family actually driving from West Virginia to Highland Falls as that was happening, driving through rain, and we were in Pennsylvania, and then the directions on my phone, I was trying to I like taking back roads every time. I don't really like to take the same way every time. Yeah, throw off the fake birds and the drones and all this stuff. And also avoid the tolls that I want to pay. But we like to see the sights, okay? I like to go sightseeing, and Pennsylvania is rather beautiful. But as I'm driving home, the directions all of a sudden like turn from green to red, and now I have to take a whole new way. I'm like, what the heck is going on? It was raining, but okay. And these birds are really curious today. If anything happens to me, you know it was the birds. And then I find out my town has just been washed away. The little bridge next to the farm where I grew up, my parents were still living there at the time, totally gone. Houses destroyed, streets destroyed, sinkholes, multiple cars. You can look up pictures of West Point, New York, and that flood, and you'll see the images of multiple cars in sinkholes. Crazy. So I've had a brush with sinkholes, and I was there soon after, and we ended up turning around and coming home because I wasn't going to because the Popolopo, this is where I was going, the Popolopo Bridge. The Popolopo Bridge, after all those years of being reinforced, was then half washed away. Like half of it was just gone during that flood. So all that work for nothing. And then you have to go right back to fixing it. Our tax dollars at work. Well, not mine, because I don't pay New York anything anymore. But, my goodness. And a video statement that the mayor posted from Phillipsburg, New Jersey on Sunday morning rather, he noted that a water main break may have also contributed to the local emergency. This response has always been about more than just the infrastructure, the mayor said. Our hearts are with the families who were affected. The town is encouraging residents to contribute to a collection of personal care and hygiene supplies with their neighbors displaced by the sudden appearance of sinkholes on these serene streets. What a sentence that was. That was a pretty nice sentence here in LehighValleyLive.com. The alliteration we have here of supplies, sudden, sinkholes, and serene streets is quite nice. Not that we should be looking for things like alliteration in our mostly objective journalism, but it's nice to see some nice writing, you know, if not a little purple prosy. You see, this is what it was like being in my classroom. Community members can drop off supplies for affected families at 3 locations. Okay. If anyone's nearby, please do help these people out. Can't help but think about the people in East Palestine when the government completely abandoned them. Oh, they didn't completely abandon them. What's his name would have said? Buttigieg. I was there. You went there for a photo op, dude, and then you disappeared. And Trump, honestly, kind of the same thing. You went there to buy the people McDonald's, and then you left. And Vance was there. Okay, that's cool. But like those people are hurting. They ruined that town, and the EPA was completely lying to everybody. And my sympathies are with that town. You know, and it's just like Maui didn't happen too long after that. I think it was after. And when I was in East Palestine after that, the train explosion, when I was in that town, there was a huge like spilling of some crazy poison in a river near Philly. It's crazy. And there was some other story too that happened at the same time. They're so frequent. This stuff happens all the time, but Take care of your neighbors if you can. Power, water, and gas services was restored. Okay. We're going to move on here. Because I wanted to just include this in these stories of land openings. This is from 2 weeks ago. No, sorry, this is from last month. Doomsday glacier bombarded by earthquakes. The image of this, I'm assuming, is maybe the Doomsday glacier, but I swear to you, it looks just like the cover from Poison the Wells opposite of December. If my computer wasn't a piece of crap, I would show you, but it is. But you can look it up at yahoo.com, Doomsday glacier bombarded by earthquakes. But if you guys out there know what I'm talking about, you can just picture it now in your mind. Shout out to Poison the Well. They have 2 new songs out, and I like them very much. New album coming out in April, I think. Not next month. Hundreds of earthquakes have been detected rattling Antarctica's Thwaites Glacier, also known as the Doomsday Glacier. The disintegration, I love that word, disintegration, of which could send between 2 and 10 feet of devastating flooding to coastal communities worldwide. The stunning finding published in a new study in the journal Geophysical Research Letters suggests that this gigantic behemoth, also that's a fun band for everyone, of ice, which is almost as big as the island of Great Britain, is even more fragile than experts feared, and that world governments' efforts to stop global warming haven't been nearly enough. So you see that there is a slant. We were just talking about the facade of objective journalism. Here we are. You think you're going to read something objective, but they think they're being objective. They think global warming, in the sense that they're writing about it, is objectively true. Now, I think that we have done something to the Earth, but the way I see climate change is like it's, one facet of climate change is this little mullet man who is a test tube baby created by Peter Thiel. That's literally man-made climate change. That's like, he says it. That's what it is. This kind of climate change, this is the more culty, a different culty kind. This is the kind of culty climate change that actually isn't happening, but there is the cultist climate, alarmist changers, whatever you want to call them, like the mullet man, who I would love to debate again, if ever given the chance. Let's continue. To keep an eye on its imminent collapse, which also, you don't know that. How many times have they told us we're going to die? This world will die. You have 12 years to live is what the Sunrise Movement told everybody. And they had their children holding up these giant signs and marching into politicians' offices saying, we have 12 years to live. And that was 12 years ago. And seems okay. I mean, other than the chemical fog and the fake birds and the fake clouds and the mud volcanoes, we're fine. So, Australian National University seismologist Than Sun Pham. That is, I read that exactly how you would. That is how you say the name. Than Sun Pham, Pham, suggests in the paper that a dedicated seismic network be located and maintained on the icy continent to monitor glacial dynamics, which may evolve abruptly in the coming decades or even years. What if the fake UFOs are actually going to emerge from the collapsing glacier? And that's why they've named it Doomsday Glacier, because they were like setting it up. It was part of the predictive programming where, okay, it's like one of those shells, the chocolate shells that kids get. They have those grocery stores where you open it up, you can eat the chocolate, but there's like a toy inside. That's actually what the Doomsday Glacier is. And once it disintegrates, a UFO will emerge. And, we had, I think it was Brett Burleson just recently saying he was briefed about a football-sized UFO, which he said UFO, but it's not technically UFO if it's underwater. But he said there was a football field sized UFO swimming, hovering underwater, moving. And it wouldn't be a UAP either. They have another word for them. I'm not another acronym for those. I forget what they are. Underwater phenomenon, but maybe that's what the Doomsday Glacier is. The risk is high. FAM detected a total of 362 previously unrecognized seismic events between 2010 and 2023, and they mostly occurred in the West Antarctic region, the home of the Thwaites Glacier and Pine Island Glacier. Shout out to Pine Island. Not the glacier, but the Pine Island, New York. It's a great town with some of the greatest onions you could ever buy. If anyone lives near Pine Island, so it's like New York, New Jersey border there as well, I highly recommend you going to Pine Island and getting some onions. It is the onion capital, and there are onion princesses out there. I wrote a whole profile on an onion princess once. She was like 60 years old when I met her. Her name was Cheryl, and it was awesome. Another big block of ice that's become visibly smaller over the years due to climate change. Glacier earthquakes are detected at around magnitude 5 on the Richter scale, and are often associated with iceberg calving in warmer months of the Arctic Circle, such as the ones in Greenland. By contrast, the dynamics that drive Antarctic earthquakes are little understood because sorry for the typos here. This is Yahoo, not me. I will mispronounce things, and I will own that. But I'm letting you know. Fumbling here because there are multiple is's in this article. Simply isn't much data on them, and they tend to register to a lower magnitude. You see this guy trying to clown me yesterday on Twitter? I've become a real clown, he said, because I'm trying to convince everyone that the moon is fake. And I was like, dude, there was an original moon. It's in the Bible. God made it. God put a moon there, the lesser light. But they swapped that out, brother. I don't know what the new thing is, if it's a hologram, a ball of plasma, Operation Paperclip HQ, if it's a demon hive, if it's a data center that was placed there by one of these ancient breakaway civilizations. But come on, brother. Come on now. You don't believe in the moon as they tell you it is. Buzz Aldrin's one of our greatest living actors. Is he still alive? They probably cloned him. Who knows? I'm sorry. I'm so wrong. Fact check. Katy Perry is one of our greatest living astronauts / actors. She went up to space, right? If you've ever flown on an airplane, you too are also an astronaut. Congratulations. Let's move on, shall we? How are we doing out there? Everyone good? That's good. Speaking of ancient breakaway civilizations, I forgot to light the candles. Look at that. I knew I forgot something. You know what? I'm going to pause it. I'm going to light them. Isn't that better? Egyptian pyramids built by advanced civilization thousands of years earlier than previously thought. And, of course, this news is breaking on GBN with two smiling news anchors. I always love that. The juxtaposition of these insane stories, which I don't totally believe in this story. I think ancient breakaway civilizations are possible. I don't believe in the time frame. But the juxtaposition of these kind of stories where it's like alien UFO disclosure, pyramids might be 1 million years older than we thought. Giant skeletons of new dinosaurs that we just made up yesterday with spikes on top of their heads, and then smiling news anchors. It's like walking into it's like when you walk into a store, and I always just think it's funny when you're like, if it's a store and there's a long line and people look miserable as they're waiting online, checking their phones, doom scrolling all over the place, and there's just like the most ridiculous pop music playing on the speakers. And it's just like, that's the background, that's the white noise, and it's just like some droning, mindless pop music. And look, can't help it. I do like some pop music. But I find it hilarious. Well, let's see what they have to say here, shall we? A new theory points to the fact no mummies have ever been found in the Great Pyramids. People have been talking about that for quite some time. Also, maybe the pyramids weren't tombs. People have been saying that for a while as well. Maybe they were some sort of charging station. The Egyptian pyramids are thought to have been built by advanced civilization thousands of years earlier than previously thought. What if the moon is actually a eroded pyramid that floated away? What if the pyramids are meant to fly? I'm just putting that out there. Antonio Ambrosio, an independent researcher from the Autonomous University of Barcelona, has put forward his theory that the three main pyramids of Giza are up to 12,000 years old, which predates the Egyptian era by a millennia. You guys know, I think the Earth is around 6,000 years old. That is a new thing for me to think as of the past few years. But I legitimately believe that. I don't know exactly, obviously. And look, I'm just a little dumb human being. I don't know. It's up to God. He knows the deal. I don't. All I know is I worship and try to glorify God in everything that I do. And sometimes I am wrong. Sometimes it's rare. But yeah, we're all human and we make mistakes. People have gotten very upset. If you question the moon, people get as upset with you as if you've questioned the Holocaust. That's how I know the moon is Jewish. Look, you question the moon, everyone gets really emotional all of a sudden. Like, okay, it's okay to question things. You've literally learned you have to question everything. The official story is never the official story. And I don't think we know exactly what the moon is. Look at all these stories we just read today about things on this planet. Antarctica, these glaciers, volcanoes, all those articles in there at some point is we don't fully understand how any of this works. And the pyramids are constantly, the narrative around a pyramid is constantly shifting. So no one knows anything. And that should comfort you, that no one knows anything. God knows. God only knows. Only God knows. You know. And while you're at it, go listen to God Only Knows, my favorite song of all time by the Beach Boys. Love that song. It is the song that each of my 3 children were born to. I was like, maybe I'll have them each born to a different song. That song is too perfect. You enter the earth to God Only Knows, and you're in for a great, beautiful ride. It's also the song my wife walked down the aisle to. Just the way the French horns open that song, it is heavenly. And Brian Wilson, rest in peace. One of my favorite quotes is from him, who he wrote this song. Had his brother sing it. Brian said, I'm paraphrasing just a bit, but music is God's voice. Back to this. Barcelona has put forward his theory. Okay, wait. Okay, Barcelona, so the college, they're saying, has put forward his theory that the 3 main pyramids are much older. If proven correct, this could rewrite human history of the pyramids, how they were built, but also who built them. I don't think it was Jewish slaves. I'm just going to put that out there. I also don't know if it was aliens, as we think of it, you know, if you're going down the alien route. But it's something. Maybe it was the giants. Maybe they enslaved giants back in the day. This revelation also points to the existence of an unknown super civilization that existed, who were able to construct complex buildings such as the pyramids and other historic monuments around the world. At the center of Mr. Ambrosio's theory is, he and other researchers claim, proof that the Egyptians only copied the original 3 pyramids in Giza after discovering them. In the research paper, which is yet to be peer-reviewed, the author argues no royal mummies or burial artifacts have been discovered inside the Giza pyramids, despite the ancient Egyptians claiming they were the tombs of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. I'm so sorry to the mummy audience out there. We do have a few mummies who do tune in, and I should be better at my pronunciations when it comes to your ancient culture. And also do call in and tell us how old this is while you're at it. You might have a rotary phone. I don't know how you watch this. Probably mummies remote viewing from your sarcophagi, I'd imagine. The Giza pyramids, currently understood to have been built around 4,600 years ago, display exceptional engineering skills. Have any of you ever seen the pyramids in person? I have not, but they do sound cool. Did you see that story going around that Mr. Beast was paid, I think he paid a lot of money to get access to the pyramids? And according to the article that I saw, I didn't read it too deeply. I only saw like a clip of it, but he said he was supposed to do a podcast with Rogan on top of the pyramid, but didn't work out like a year ago. The structure aligns with star constellations, ultra-precise stone cuts, and its base is almost perfectly level. According to Mr. Ambrosio, these engineering qualities are not reflected in any of the other smaller pyramids, which are understood to have been built by the Egyptians between 2500 BC and 2150 BC. So, who knows? The scholar also added that the iconic statue, the Great Sphinx of Giza, shows signs of water erosion from heavy rain. We've been hearing about that for a while. However, it has not rained in Egypt between roughly 5000 BC and 3000 BC. It has not rained in Egypt between... Okay, that should be... It did not rain? AI must have written this. This suggests, says in Mr. Ambrosio, the entire site was already ancient and worn from the elements at the start of ancient Egyptian civilization in 3100 BC, reports the Daily Mail. Mr. Ambrosio wrote in the paper, the pyramids of Giza were not built by the pharaohs of the 4th dynasty, but rather appropriated by them. So we are talking about cultural appropriation here in ancient Egypt. Subsequent pyramids and earlier ones, according to the conventional timeline, would represent imperfect attempts to imitate pre-existing structures. So there you go. Some pyramid news for everybody. What do we have next here? Oh, you know what? Real quick. Let's just, while we're at it, why not? Let's just do a bit of this. Nikola Tesla, he was obsessed with the pyramids. Tesla died somewhat unappreciated, but his fame and the myth around him has continued to grow tremendously into our times. He is now perceived as the ultimate mad scientist, the one who essentially invented our times, credited the key ideas to leading to smartphones, Wi-Fi, AC, electrical supply system, and one of the most unusual things he was obsessed with, I'm just skipping down here, were the Egyptian pyramids. Tesla believed they served a higher purpose and was investigating them throughout his life. What did he find so alluring about the pyramids? He wondered if they weren't giant transmitters of energy, a thought that coincided with his investigation into how to send energy wirelessly. In 1905, Tesla filed a patent in the U.S. titled The Art of Transmitting Electrical Energy Through the Natural Medium, outlining designs for a series of generators around the world which would tap the ionosphere for energy collections. You remember we were just talking about the ionosphere and the magnetosphere, HARP, shooting beams up into it, how that might affect birds, migratory birds with cryptochromes in their eyes. He saw... This is Tesla now, that the Earth itself with its two poles as a giant electrical generator of limitless energy. And I think he was right. And that's why they made him crazy. And that's why they destroyed him. Isn't it interesting, as a quick aside, isn't it interesting how they electrocuted an elephant as propaganda to hurt Tesla's idea of electricity? And Jolly West, I think it was Jolly West, I think he dosed an elephant to death with LSD. I think it was LSD. Those don't feel disconnected to me, whether those people even know it or not. So interesting. I'm going to do a quick tangent because I need to make sure I'm saying things that are actually based in this reality and not from the other timeline that I somehow slipped here from. I think it was Jolly West. You guys know Jolly West, right? We were just talking about him, but connected to MK Ultra in many ways. LSD experiment at zoo in 1962 killed elephant. 5 minutes into the acid trip, Tusco trumpeted, collapsed, and lost bowel control. The 7,000-pound elephant's limbs trembled and his brain entered a dangerous state of persistent seizure. An hour and 40 minutes after the injection of lysergic acid dithylamide, LSD, for those who can't speak like me, the 14-year-old elephant died. Dr. Louis Jolyon Jolly West, then professor and head of Department of Psychiatry, Neurology, and Behavioral Sciences at the University of Oklahoma School of Medicine, documented a 1962 experiment in the journal Science. It appears that the elephant is highly sensitive to the effects of LSD. You don't say. A finding which may prove to be valuable in elephant control work in Africa. West co-wrote with Chester Pierce, then chief of psychiatry at Veterans Administration Hospital, and Warren Thomas, the zoo's director. The death of Tusco, this is a quote again, the death of Tusco suggests the nature of the danger and most likely cause of death should a lethal overdose be taken by a human. Now, think about Frank Olson. I think that was a few years earlier, maybe almost a decade earlier, where Sidney Gottlieb, the father of MKUltra, dosed Frank Olson with LSD unknowingly, and that led to a psychotic break in Frank Olson, and he's the guy who leapt or fell out of a window, but I think he was pushed. It's a weird story. But Jolly West killed an elephant with LSD. And just to make sure I'm not making all these things up and making sure I'm just in the right timeline, if you guys don't mind, humor me here. I have to ground myself in the proper timeline. Because sometimes I say things, I'm like, you know what, that might not have been from this timeline. Topsy the elephant was a female Asian elephant who was electrocuted at Coney Island, New York in January 1903, born in Southeast Asia. Let's just get to it really quick. What happened to poor old Topsy? Terrible. The date of Topsy's demise is finally set for Sunday, January 4th, 1903. The press attention the event had received brought out an estimated 1,500 spectators and 100 press photographers, as well as agents from the ASPCA, to inspect proceedings. They allowed 100 spectators into the park, although more climbed through the park fence. Many more were on the balconies. They filmed it. It was terrible. Chief electrician Sharkey making sure everyone was clear. Topsy was fed carrots laced with 460 grams of potassium cyanide. At 2:45, Sharkey gave a signal. An electrician on a telephone told the superintendent at Coney Island, which was at the station 9 blocks away, to close a switch, and Luna Park chief electrician Hugh Thomas closed another one at the park, sending 6,600 volts from Bay Ridge across Topsy's body for 10 seconds. After Topsy fell, the steam-powered winch tightened 2 nooses placed around her neck for 10 minutes. 1903. Teddy Roosevelt is the president at this time. At 2:47, Topsy was pronounced dead. So 3 years after the president had been assassinated, McKinley. Just interesting to think about. And maybe 50 years later, Jeffrey Epstein would be a little baby, allegedly, at Coney Island. After Topsy fell, the steam-powered winch. Okay, I don't need to read all this. I think it's really gruesome, but they connect this to Thomas Edison as a way to show that Tesla's technology was dangerous. That is disputed, however, depending on who you look at. But growing up, I was reading into all this stuff. I was interested in Tesla. That was a story. So Tesla was obsessed with the pyramids as well, and I think he might have been onto something. So for our friends in Houston, let's just make some rounds around the country. For our friends in Houston, I saw this. I'm like, okay, we'll just briefly cover this, because this is weird. This is from today, or I think it was yesterday. Ready? Bodies in the bayou. Inside Houston's waterways and unsolved cases. Since 2017, more than 200 people have been found across Houston's 2,500 miles of bayous. Social media is full of questions. How did these people die? Was someone responsible? And if there is a killer, what are the police doing to stop them? Harris County District Attorney Sean Tier says there is no serial killer dumping victims into the bayou. But every time a body is found in Houston's waterways, some people believe otherwise. There's similar questions to the river in Austin, where they found lots of bodies. KPRC2 spent 2 months speaking with a victim's family, Harris County's top prosecutor, and others for a 30-minute special called Bodies in the Bayou. Lauren Freeman, cousin of Kenneth Cutting Jr., expressed frustration with the investigation. For 19 months, she has searched for answers about what happened to her cousin. His body was found in a bayou east of downtown Houston in June 2024. Houston police investigated but later closed the case. It's pretty close-ended, if you know what I mean, Freeman said. It's like, if you bring evidence, okay, what do you want us to bring? What exactly do you need to reopen this case? Kenneth Cutting Jr. is among 40% of people found in Houston bayou since 2017 whose deaths were ruled undetermined by the Harris County Medical Examiner. That statistic has fueled public speculation about a serial killer. I just read about a serial killer in, I think it was a Dallas area. It was, I think, a man from Kenya who had killed like a lot of old women and was caught stealing their jewelry. And pretty crazy trial. They found him not guilty at first. And then later found guilty, and then when he went to jail, the inmates killed him. I'm breaking things. I just want to throw that out there. There's really not a lot. I haven't watched this yet, but it's a lot of bodies and a lot of undetermined deaths. So if you're in Houston, like our friend Sarge, Sarge Payton, let us know what you think. What's going on out in Houston? All right. I just want to move through some of these things here. Just briefly, as I'm going to some Epstein news, I thought this was so ridiculous. The Spectator, place I have written for in the past, published an article by Ian Maxwell, Ghislaine's brother. This is what it says. My sister Ghislaine became a prop in the theater of global online outrage. My family has become a byword for scandal. This is how I imagine him writing it, weeping because he's so upset that his family name has been turned into a bad word. It's like a Voldemort, except we should all be saying it. He says, my father Robert went from press baron to tabloid monster within weeks of his death in 1991. Dude, your father was an arms dealer for mobsters and world governments. What are you doing here? Why did the Spectator feel the need to publish this? My sister Ghislaine, convicted in New York 3 decades later for sex trafficking offenses linked to Jeffrey Epstein, became the algorithmically optimized villain of the online age. Last week's arrest of the former Prince Andrew shows how fully a newer system has taken hold, one in which guilt is first declared on the homepage and only later, if at all, tested in court. Epstein went to jail twice. And your sister is in jail, allegedly. What are you talking about, dude? Old protections, the presumption of innocence, etc., become threadbare once a story enters the global content mill. Defendants are no longer chiefly subjects of legal process. They are raw material for clicks, outrage, and political theater. I love that they felt the need to publish this. You know what? We should hear from everybody. I have no problem with that. I love that we get to look at this. I am not reading this whole thing, at least out loud to you guys. I do want to finish it later. A 24-hour cable news and podcast ecosystem hungry for narrative filled with gaps between hearings. Dude, we don't know the well-documented history of your family. Sorry, this is hurting your reputation. Change your name, all right? All right? Get over it. I'm not reading any more of that. But I will read some of this. Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women through British airports until just a month before his 2019 arrest, as he took more than 60 flights, including many to RAF bases. What is even beeping? Oh my gosh. Is that my Neuralink? I'm so sorry. I might have forgotten to charge my Neuralink. This is from today. Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women through British airports until a month before his arrest in 2019, the Epstein files suggest. Booking records, flight logs, as well as fuel receipts, a part of the trove of documents released by the Department of Justice, show the pedophile financier flew to and from Britain over 60 times. And the disgraced financier, 66, booked commercial flights for women in and out of the UK just a month before his arrest in 2019. It is understood that 6 police forces are probing. Well, there you go, guys. Probing. You cannot avoid that word. Whether victims were trafficked on the financier's private plane in and out of UK airports as well as RAF bases. Among those bases included the investigation in Northall, a station in Ruislip, West London, which was instrumental in the country's defense during the Battle of Britain in World War II. Gordon Brown has requested that 6 police forces assess whether Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, that is the former prince, if you don't know, utilized the Air Force for trips linked to Epstein. What do you think? The former Labour Prime Minister has handed a file of evidence regarding flights to the forces whose policing authority boundaries cover relevant airports where the sex offender's jet may have landed. So, just want to throw that out there. Quick little new update. Some things that are coming out that people are seeing. And let's see here. Some updates. Just seeing if the fake birds are listening. Are the fake birds there? If this is all a hoax, if this is just one big Democrat hoax, as President Trump has suggested, then tell me why the CEO of the World Economic Forum just quit because of his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, we at the end of multiple episodes lately, I've been going through a lot of things that have been happening in the real world implications due to the hoax, the alleged hoax of Jeffrey Epstein and all the files. Very strange. The president and CEO of the World Economic Forum, Jorge Brendi, said he was stepping down on Thursday, a few weeks after the forum launched an independent investigation into his relationship with late U.S. sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. He became president of WEF in 2017, announced his decision in a statement following disclosures from the U.S. Justice Department that showed that the Norwegian had 3 business dinners with Epstein and had also communicated with a disgraced financier via email. Wasn't it the former Norway Prime Minister? Man. So, I'm just making sure I'm saying things that are right. People are now... I looked up to see if it was the former Norway Prime Minister who attempted suicide after the ties to the files. And now, as of today, there's a new article in Yahoo News that is saying that was the story was there, but now they're saying if it was real or not. They're calling it into question because Snopes is not sure if it actually happened. Snopes hasn't always been right, but I'm going to keep my eye on this because it could be one of those things that's completely fabricated. And it's one of my confirmation biases when it comes to the files, Now, from all I can tell, I'm reading from routers that this is true about the WEF president, the CEO, stepping down. So there's that. We also have this from the Hill. Nobel Prize winning Columbia neuroscientist resigns over Epstein ties. Like yesterday, we talked about Bill Gates talking to his staff, apologizing. There have been little things happening that prove that a lot of this stuff is real, like if they're that bad. Or maybe it's just a front. Maybe it's just an excuse for all of them to step down. Remember when we had all those CEOs step down, like leading up to COVID? Who knows? But we have this Nobel Prize winning neuroscientist at Columbia University. He resigned from some of his positions within the institution over his ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Richard Axel, co-director of the Zuckerman Mind Brain Behavior Institute. That's got to be just all good stuff going on there. He won a Nobel Prize in 2004 for discovering over 1,000 special receptors in the nose that send olfactory information to the brain. My past association with Jeffrey Epstein was a serious error in judgment, which I deeply regret. I apologize for compromising the trust of my friends, students, and colleagues, Axel said in a statement obtained by News Nation, the Hill's sister network. I did not know that those were related. I recognize the problems this has caused, and I will work to restore this trust. Good luck. Good luck. I just don't care anymore. Just let him go. Just let him go. All right. I had another quick one for you guys. Let's do it. It's from the Catholic Review. Pope Leo tells priests not to use AI to write homilies or seek likes on TikTok. In a question and answer session with clergy from the Diocese of Rome, the Pope said priests should resist the temptation to prepare homilies with artificial intelligence. Like all the muscles in the body, if we do not use them, if we do not move them, they die. The brain needs to be used, so our intelligence must also be exercised a little so as to not lose this capacity, Pope Leo said in the closed-door meeting, according to a report by Vatican News. To give a true homily is to share faith, and artificial intelligence will never be able to share faith, the Pope added. Who wants to return to this conversation? What do you think it'll take, 5 or 10 years? When the Vatican might be revisiting this. I hope not. But they have shifted things, as we talked about yesterday, views on certain things in the past. I am curious how church elders, how bodies like the Vatican, depending on your denomination of Christianity and other religions, as the proliferation of AI accelerates, how will they begin to adapt or mold their faith around it? I don't think they should. I am of the belief that we should not be mutating our faith, our doctrine, to fit modern times. It is pretty clear in the Bible how we should be living, how we should be thinking, and how we should be just in this world, not of this world, right? And I don't think we should be like shape-shifting the word, capital W word, to fit with new things like artificial intelligence. But I like that. Respect to that. And let's see, one last thing here. I had this pulled up. I'm going to also go and see if there's anything new, because as we're speaking, Hillary Clinton, the lizard woman herself, is appearing for her Epstein deposition before the House. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is meeting with the House Oversight Committee on Thursday in New York after she agreed to answer questions under oath related to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein to fend off contempt of Congress, a contempt of Congress vote. Hillary Clinton and her husband, who you will remember, honeymooned in Haiti together before they destroyed it and trafficked children, and also had their own earthquake button. That's just me. They agreed to testify behind closed doors after a lengthy back and forth with the Republican-led panel culminated in a bipartisan vote to recommend that both be held in criminal contempt of Congress for failing to appear under subpoena. The House was on the verge of a floor vote, which was poised to pass with bipartisan support when the Clintons relented to the committee's demands for in-person questioning. So, we'll see. Let's see real quick. Let's see if any updates. Let's see. Has anything happened since I started recording? Did you guys hear that? Please let me know if you heard that. Please let me know if you heard that. there was a sound. Maybe it was just my ears. I'm touching the microphone the same way I just was. That was bizarre. Another voice in my Neuralink going off, but nothing new here. Man, that was weird. That was weird. Oh, boy. What a strange, strange world. Was that voice to skull technology? I am so curious if you're going to hear that. I'm going to play it back after I'm done here. See if the fake bird's trying to send in voices to the ears here. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I am looking forward to a new song from the band Tony Danza, Tap Dance Extravaganza, that will be coming out to me right now in 20 minutes on some Sirius XM radio station. But that's a fun band. I told you guys about from Second Story Window a day or two ago. This band is up there. I love this band. They have not made new music in quite some time. My old band almost toured with them in like 2005 or 6, but our guitar player quit right before that tour, which really stunk. But I would have been stoked. It would have been like with bands like Into the Moat and Tony Danza. Into the Moat was a great band from Florida. But yeah, we have new music coming out tomorrow. I don't know what else is coming out, but I'm always looking forward to Fridays to see what bands have dropped, new albums, new songs. I hope you all have a very blessed and safe weekend. Again, prayers to Jace, who has lost his father. Please say a prayer for him. And thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Please do leave a comment, leave a like, share it. It all helps with the algorithm. And I will see you guys on Monday. Have a good one.